The events in this video are fictional, as are the characters portrayed within. Any similarities to anyone living or dead are merely coincidental and being created at random by XCOM's name generator. Seriously.
Welcome, one and all, to part 2 of my XCOM Enemy Within Long War Impossible Ironman campaign, and to the silent prayer that is the UFO Crash site, Hidden Him.
This is Big Sky. We're just north of the crash site.
So here we are in stark contrast to our last mission, with barely any full cover and no concealment. But thankfully, like all UFO Crash missions, we can expect to find 1/3 less aliens than usual. And seeing as the first Crash mission in vanilla XCOM Impossible always had 2 packs of 2 as well as a pilot, I'm going to err on the side of caution and expect to find 2 packs of 3 as well as the pilot. And if I've learned anything from Long War's unpredictability, it's to always expect the worst. So let's begin with a quick scan of the battlefield and have a look for some meld. And speaking of which, it didn't occur to me until the end of the last mission that at no point did I hear meld canister pop, which leads me to believe that there was no meld, unlike all the vanilla abduction and UFO missions, which always have 2. Long War mixes things up not just by hiding the meld timers from you, but by also changing the amount that you can find, which can be up to 4 in some cases that I've seen, or like our last mission, 0. But unfortunately I can't see any meld on the horizon, so for now we'll just keep our eyes open. Before we press on, a quick recap of our troops and their inventory. We've got Lady Ronald Reagan with below average aim, an AP and a flashbang, Al Pacino with average aim, a smoke and a HE, Keith Richards with abysmal aim, an AP and a HE, Julia Roberts with above average aim, an AP and a medkit, Owen Wilson with outstanding aim, battle scanner and ceramic plating to make up for his reduced health, and finally Paul Newman with rubbish aim like Richards, an AP and a flashbang. So I know the crash site's to our north, so let's take a steady pace and uh-oh!
My team would love to get their hands on that thing.
And that's right, we found ourselves some drones. Something that you wouldn't find in the early vanilla game of XCOM. These little guys make appearances from the get-go in Long War. But I suppose we should at least be grateful there wasn't a leader in there. Now at first glance these 2 little guys don't look like much of a threat. But appearances as always can be deceptive, and Long War's really mixed things up. Like all robotic units in Long War, they've been given some pretty hefty damage resistance, on top of their already existing critical hit resistance. That means rookies with rifles don't often fare well. And seeing as there's a lot to go through in the last mission, now seems as good a time as any to introduce damage resistance. Why is it so important, you might ask? Because low cover and high cover both carry damage resistance with it. Low cover negates 2/3 of 1 hit point of damage, and being behind full cover negates an entire hit point of damage. So looking back at Inglesias in this situation here, without the damage reduction from his full cover, that shot would have killed him. Instead, like all good rookies, he lives to panic in another mission. Before you think this damage reduction behind cover is overpowered, it applies to everyone, human and alien. But enough of the lessons of Long War's new mechanics with cover. We've got a drone problem to resolve. I assess the situation and decide to bring as many of my grenadiers forward into furthest cover in range of their targets. Unfortunately, Newman's AP grenade is 1 tile too short. And as Julia Roberts is the only one with a grenade that can reach the cover closest to Ronald Reagan, she's up next. Next up to the furthest cover is Keith Richards with his grenades. And I have Pacino and Wilson follow him to take up the last cover positions. So now with everyone in place, I check my grenade throws. Richards' AP is in range, but Pacino's HE is a couple of tiles short. Thankfully though, Julia Roberts' AP makes up for it. So now we have 3 grenades trained on the close drone, it's time to see what kind of damage we can deal. Richards up first, as he's one of the grenadiers furthest back.
Eat this!
And even with the drone's damage resistance, he still causes a 3-point hit. And on 1 HP and 2 more grenades gunning for him, it's time to turn our attention to the furthest drone. Newman, Wilson and Pacino may not be in range of a grenade, but they can still take their shots. And taking the lead is Wilson, with a 74% chance to hit. And then only dealing a measly 1 damage. Next up is Pacino, with a 64% chance to hit. And incredibly dealing 3 points of damage, which I believe is the maximum that an assault rifle can do against a drone. And so finally, for the first time this campaign, we have control over a combat situation. And with 2 free soldiers, not including Reagan's AP grenade, that means we can start firing wildly. And speaking of which, Newman chokes on his 58% chance to hit. But with 68% chance to hit, the manly Julia Roberts shows us how it's done. Now there was a small chance with that drone's damage resistance that Reagan's AP grenade could have done 0 damage. But that's the risk my soldiers are willing to take. And so ends our second turn.
Ready to engage. I've got my eyes on it.
Just in time to hear our next contacts. Sectoids.
What the hell was that?
Sectoids, I just told you.
But at least there's a bright side. Another first in this campaign, we finally get a whiff of some meld. And there it is, all the way to the far right of the UFO. So that's where we're heading next. But before we tempt fate and go any further, it's time to find out where our friendly neighbourhood pilot is. So Wilson chucks the battle scanner he was saving just for this reason.
Our readings
There
can't
he
be
is,
right.
huddled away in his little crystal on the left-hand side of the ship.
That's a being of almost pure energy.
And I don't intend to startle him, because like everything else, Long War's given him quite a boost. So we'll leave him for last. Time to move out, giving the UFO a wide berth. And like I mentioned in the last mission, it's absolutely fine to leave your troops out of cover at the end of the turn, as long as there aren't any aliens active.
Okay,
I'm rolling.
got it. Moving.
It's almost as if the pilot knows we're here. Well, there goes our 2 turns of vision. Nevertheless, let's get to that meld before it pops. Giving the UFO as much room as I can muster. And there's our meld, still in one piece. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listen to the dulcet beats of that meld canister. The beat that meld canister's humming to means that in exactly 1 turn, it's gonna pop. That means if I don't grab it this turn, I won't get it at all. Now, even though you can see Paul Newman, my frontman, is well out of range of it, contrary to the following actions, I'm completely aware of this. But sometimes, greed and hope get the better of me. And in XCOM Impossible, that's never a good combination. And to top it all off, I want Paul Newman to dash to it to the next turn. And I know this is a horrible idea. But nonetheless, I consider the distance and I realise he can't make it in a single turn. So I move him up. That's right, I do the one thing I know I'm not supposed to do, dash your lead guy forwards.
Looky what we got here. You're mine now, boy.
Goddamn hillbilly sectoids prime the trap perfectly. And like a f***ing moron, all I thought was, ooh, shiny meld. So here we find ourselves. Paul Newman's used all his turns to dash to half cover, and the rest of the squad standing like idiots in the open, barely in range of the little half cover that remains. So yet again, it's time for damage control. That's what happens when I know the rules and I ignore them, because saying and doing are 2 very different things. There's only room for 2 squad mates to pull back into full cover, out of range of the ensuing firefight. So I have Wilson and Roberts fall back as my flanking team, as they have the best accuracy. While Reagan's Richard and Pacino form up on Newman, to offer him support next turn. Reagan moves up first, the nearest cover. Richards then runs the furthest cover he can get to without ending his turn. But with a change of heart, I dash Richards further in, as I want his grenade to be a little bit more accessible next turn. And lastly, Pacino takes his spot. Now you might be wondering why I dashed Richards. As Newman had already dashed, and Pacino had to dash to reach his cover, there was no way I could get everybody to hunker down. And if one person doesn't hunker down, there's no point in anybody else hunkering down. And either way, nobody's in range of a grenade throw this turn. As for Reagan, I consider his options. As I said, there's no point in him hunkering down unless everybody else is. I don't want him to overwatch, as the sectoids can't flank me this turn. And not to mention, I actually want them to advance on me, as I can't advance on them without triggering the pilot. And so I have him steady his weapon, a new ability to all soldiers in Long War. This ends the soldier's turn, but grants +20 aim as long as the first action he does next turn is fire his weapon. And so there's nothing left but brace myself for what's to come. Newman takes 4 damage to the face like a champ. As does Reagan, although less like a champ and more like a sissy girl, panicking half the squad with him. Yeah, that's alright guys, you're perfectly safe back there, but you just feel free to freak the f*** out. So half the front team heavily wounded, with one of them panicking, and the flanking squad panicking as Pacino's backup singers. Time to see if we can take control of this situation with 3 soldiers. We have 2 HEs, a smoke, an AP, and a flashbang. We also have 2 of our squad mates in range to flank the advancing sectoid. So knowing I can probably kill the advancing sectoid this turn, I check Newman's throwing arm for his flashbang, and it looks slightly out of range of the concealed sectoid. Richards could probably get to the cover on the right to flank, if only Newman wasn't in his way. So considering my options, I bring Newman out of cover to get him in range for the flashbang. Taking all of my available options into account, the front sectoid should be dead, and the far sectoid should be stunned, so I think that's an acceptable risk. And thankfully, it looks like he's just in range for the big flashbang. And with Newman out the way, Richards can move to the cover to flank. 67-60 is not great, but in times like this you have to take what you can get.
He's down.
And with an incredible 9 damage crit, Richard pulls it out of the bag. All that's left now is to let Newman's flashbang loose.
Okay.
Hoping may not get you far in this game, but when you're backed up against the wall, that's all you've got. And with Newman out of cover, I pop a smoke just to be sure that sectoid doesn't do anything rash. And just as predicted, under the effects of a flashbang, sectoids too can panic. What you doing there, little buddy? You want to wake up the pilot? I think he's taking a mid-flight cruise snooze. So with everyone out of immediate danger, it's time to retake control. I move Wilson and Roberts around to get ready for the flank.
Got it. Moving.
We'll go.
I move Reagan up to join the crew and shuffle Pacino over to give Newman his cover back.
Aye, aye, Commander.
And although Richards got a shot on that little guy, I don't want to risk waking up the pilot and totaling the mission, so I let him go. And then hunker everybody down, just to be safe. Again I move my flanking squad round, and hunker everybody down to avoid any surprises. Another turn more of that and I'm beginning to get worried, as that little guy could really have travelled far by now. So this time round I only hunker down my injured troops, Newman and Reagan, while the rest of the squad keep their eyes open and go into Overwatch. And lo and behold, there he is! So with a -20 Overwatch aim penalty, Wilson shoots to kill with a 54% chance to hit. Now, with that palaver over with, it's time to confront the pilot. But there is no way in hell I'm just charging into that ship, because when I trigger the pilot he could just run out the far door. And with a bunch of rookies in a cover-to-cover firefight like that, against an opponent who's been so heavily buffed by Long War, I'd be very surprised if any of my guys survived. And so I begin my arduous journey looping around the ship. So while my troops are enjoying the scenery, I thought I'd take a second to make a couple of points about the last video. In case a few of you were wondering, yes, I was actually sick. Blah. But I'm better now. Yay! Kind of. And as it happens, that's how I had enough time to sort everything out and get it working. Because I'm sure as you can see, I didn't have a fucking clue. No doubt the quality of the video gives it away. Next point is how fucking shit my microphone is. Yes, it sucks. So bad. It snaps, crackles, and pops all the fucking time. And no, I didn't intentionally make those sounds, I just left my microphone recording for a few seconds. So that means I have to constantly re-record my voiceovers. And whenever I do that, because the microphone's unreliable support, whenever I re-record, the pitch of my voice always sounds a little off. And I hear you cry, "So why don't you buy a new one, Mickey, you fucking cheapskate?" My microphone's part of my headset, and although I want to buy a new headset, it might be a little time, because those things are pretty pricey. So in the meantime, I will cut out all the cracks, and use my video program to cancel out the white noise.
Solutions. Position confirmed.
I'm on it, Commander.
Not that it'll make much difference in the next fight, but I have Julia Roberts heal up Ronald Reagan.
Hey, quiet, you big baby. You're fine. Headed there now.
But enough of that, because at long last we finally arrived at the only functional door on the alien ship. And nestled within is the owner of 10 health points. And like all the other aliens, Long War's given him some pretty significant buffs, starting with doubling his health, whilst also maintaining his increased accuracy. So I do not want to take any more chances. And lucky for me, he moves forward a couple of tiles instead of running back, which gives me the opportunity to surround him. And against outsiders, that's exactly what you want. So with Reagan the only one that can get a proper flank, he's up first, while everyone else has to make do with shooting over low cover. So the rest of the team form up to see what shots they can take.
Heading to that location.
Now we may have control of the situation, but still I'd rather use bullets over grenades. So it all relies on Ronald Reagan, the only one with a flank. And the only one that has a modest chance to score a critical hit and heavy damage. So with 94 accuracy and 60% chance for critical hit, it all hinges on him. And he scores a heavy 8 damage hit. And now we have complete control of the situation, as we can finish him off with grenades. But there's no reason not to fire wildly and waste some ammo first. And lucky we've got a lot of shots in reserve because Wilson just muffed a 71% shot.
Drop your weapon. We have you completely surrounded. On one side.
Pacino, what are you doing? Stand down! But with 63%, Pacino shows us he doesn't need accuracy.
Mission accomplished.
And so, after a stupid fuck up...
Headed there now. Look sharp.
Ah! We pull it back from the brink. And besides the 2 pointless injuries, that's the kind of summary screen I want to see. Finally, Reagan and Richards can choose from one of the last 2 classes, the medic or the engineer. Wilson and Roberts can become a gunner or a rocketeer. Pacino can choose between infantry and assault. And annoyingly, only Newman with his rubbish aim gets to choose between a scout or a sniper. Or probably just a scout. And to top it all off, we got a fair bit of loot. Not just from the crashed UFO, but from not using explosives on the aliens. So all in all, a job well done. We've scrapped the UFO for parts, and I guess standard procedure says we just put a couple of tents over whatever's left and claim we're building a Taco Bell there. Right, so base management. A couple of things I did off camera. First, I click rename on all the interceptors, so that any kills they get will be converted into experience. I believe it's about 2 accuracy per kill. And of course, that's a Long War edition. Followed by 2 more interceptors, because I'm determined not to go for the satellite rush this playthrough. And the other change I made offline was to make all the soldiers look like their namesake counterparts, such as the lovely Lady Einstein here. Oh, give me a break, it's not exactly like I have the same customization options as there are on The Sims. Kill me now. What the fuck? That's just creepy. Next, I made a bit more room underground, because the only 2 spaces we have available are reserved for satellite uplinks and power. And then I built an ammo drum for when the ship's ready, just because why the hell not. So with that all done, it's time to fly. And a whole 30 minutes later, these suckers really do not rest in long war.
Commander,
And unlike vanilla XCOM, instead of 3 missions which guarantees 2 failures, you're given 1 mission at a time, but far, far more frequently. Which means sooner or later, if you haven't been on top of your troop numbers, you're going to have to decline a mission. But anyway, let's see who we've got. So you know the drill. Johnny Cash gets an AP and a HE for his bad aim. Oliver Reed gets the same for even worse aim. Bruce Lee gets an AP for mediocre aim and ceramic plating for his low health. Denzel Washington's got great aim, so he gets the utility items, the scanner and the medkit. Tom Cruise got average aim, so an AP and a flash. And Jennifer Aniston with below average aim gets a flash and a smoke. So off to Nigeria we go. For XCOM to enforce some Team America justice on some alien scum. For Operation Blinding Skull.
Listen up. We're going to
We
be
brought
dropping
those
deep in the
flashbangs.
Nigerian interior for the next operation.
But I think the grenade's going to have to wait till next time.